everybody? My name is Spencer Welsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We have a good one for you, as always. We start off today's show by talking about the economy as unemployment claims reveal the toll of the rising virus cases, the endless loop we seem to have been caught in since really the beginning of this virus, restrictions versus economic pain, and trying to alleviate that with the incompetent ruling class that we currently have. Again, of course, on both sides of the aisle there. Also, on today's show, President-elect Joe Biden and the kind of government that he's going to inherit. Will there be a stimulus? We will update you on some of the latest in terms of negotiation and what has been put in this bill, spliced in last minute to keep some certain people happy. And we will take a look and we'll tell you if it does enough. And by the way, it certainly, definitely, almost completely does not do enough. We're going to break it down for you on today's show. And finally, AOC. We're going to hear from AOC about, she was on speaking to the media about Nancy Pelosi and what the effective strategy is to stop her and deal with her in the future, and why it probably isn't withholding a vote for her speakership for a floor vote for Medicare for All. That is 4:59, today's episode of Newsflash. I hope it's 4:59. Anyway, welcome to the show. I'm pretty sure we're on 4:59. It's tough to remember. We've done a lot of this stuff. We've done a lot of podcasting in this year, ever since 2017 here on Newsflash. But you know who has done a lot of job losing, very, very sadly, is American people. And really, no one really seems to be coming to their aid in a very substantial way anytime soon, which is very, very unfortunate. But here again, we have some reporting from the New York Times as rising COVID-19 cases are taking a steep toll on economic activity, battering the labor market, even as a new vaccine offers rays of hope for the next year. As we've seen the number of Americans filing initial claims for unemployment insurance remaining high throughout last week. The Labor Department reported Thursday. After dropping earlier in the fall, claims have moved higher, and they remain at levels that dwarf the pace of past recessions. So, it really is it's really hitting in some certain specific sectors, obviously, but it really is completely decimating those sectors and creating really long-lasting economic damage, really pillars of certain economies, like, for example, everything to do with hospitality, and obviously that has a lot of just receding effects, like pushes and pulls and strains on other parts of the economy, which are also, in their own ways, affected by this virus, like airline workers, all that, from airline workers to movie theaters, like everyone, movie theater employees, like we're all in a very, very deep, they're all in a very, very deep situation right there. And it is really interesting to see how kind of it's a lagging indicator with the response to the virus. We've seen a little bit more people being able to find a little bit more economic security maybe in the summer, but the winter has hit both virus case totals and the economic totals, really economic carnage totals have just continued to get super, super high. So there were 935,000 new claims for state benefits compared with 956,000 the previous week, kind of suggesting a little bit of a disturbing like plateau. Like there's a base pace that is like of just the economy and unemployment or employment in general that's being just chipped away at very, very slowly, little by little by little, and really shows no signs of stopping until this thing is fully under control here. Well, again, 455,000 filed for the pandemic unemployment assistance, a federally funded program for part-time workers, the self-employed, and others ordinarily ineligible for jobless benefits. On a seasonally adjusted basis, the number of, so just people, again, who have lost their income, the number of new state claims was around 885,000, increase of 23,000 from the previous week. Consumer caution coupled with new restrictions on business activity like indoor dining has pummeled the hospitality industry, lodging, airlines, and other service businesses. The debut of a coronavirus vaccine this week offers the prospect of relief, finally the welcome sign of some sort of life after this disease and a possibility of a beyond COVID world. Because, I mean, for a lot of businesses, they were really unable to plan for this and really unable to just ration in a way that they thought may be appropriate, because this thing was going to be over by October, it was going to be over by the summer, it was going to be over by Easter. It's like, it's not, and a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, well, it's because of personal human behavior, but I think a lot of it's because people have been told misleading information by bad actors time and time again, and have really just, like, bought into it. And really, when it comes, I think a lot of Americans, when it comes to an authority figure, they don't really differentiate, as to, like, what political party. They're not, like, especially, like, more, like, nonpartisan Americans who have kind of just detached from politics completely. They don't really follow the day-to-day workings of everything. It is very, very clear that they've just like really given up, and more people probably have in this pandemic, and I think justifiably so. They have really given up on any kind of prospect that there are people out there who are, like, genuinely there to, like, serve them and do good things for them, because it is just really, it's just such a depressing prospect when we have these people, some people saying this, and just really just factions developing in a government in a time like this. And a lot of that does come from conservatives and the right wing, which is currently kind of holding back the flow of federal money into these areas here. But there is a big part of the fact where there's Democrats who have created a very, very bad situation in some cities, and it's a lot less on the Democrats because they just haven't had, again, that critical flow of federal funding for, like, state and local relief. But the question is, now that they're maybe likely to get some, will they make sure that their relief is appropriate? And will they, in their own way, will they push to ensure proper protections, actually things that are appropriate, like paycheck protection programs that are appropriate, checks to people from the statewide level that are appropriate, as to and much better than what our government is giving now, and we'll get into what our government is giving in the next story. But can they push that now that they're getting the aid, and can they supplement it? It's going to be interesting to see where they come from, and that could be, this kind of direct action will be pretty helpful in regaining some sort of basic trust in government, and some sort of sense that maybe, just maybe, in a crisis, the government can actually come to people's aid when they lose their job to no fault of their own. And you are telling people to, again, the government, a lot of people see it as the fact that the government is creating this problem for them, and a lot of people, especially kind of in more rural parts of the country, have had very limited exposure to COVID, especially limited exposure to serious COVID, unless you're like North Dakota or something. And what you hear is the government trying to say, shut down, shut down, shut down. And you really get no, and people for the most part are like, yes, let's do the sensible thing and lock down, right? But the thing is, it's very, very hard for them to, like, not provide for their family while they're doing so. Like, it's impossible. Like, it's a sacrifice that very few people are going to be, like, willing to make if you're in that situation, which I think a lot of people are, and it really weighs a toll on people. A lot of people will do it to the best extent that they can, because they do generally care, but it's very, very hard to do when you're not providing people sufficient relief. And really just no really substantial relief for average people since March. Just one $1,200 check. There were 935,000 new claims for state benefits, compared with, again, 956,000 the previous week on those numbers. Not good at all. At the end of November, more than 20 million workers were collecting unemployment benefits from under the state or federal programs. Labor Department data indicates, with a weakening economy as the backdrop, Republicans and Democrats have continued talks on Wednesday on another pandemic relief bill, something that economists have warned is overdue. Without action, 2 key programs for unemployed workers will expire this month, cutting off benefits to millions. And that is something that is why it is so critical that they cannot leave before the Christmas recess without passing it, because they, at the very least, which will probably happen in any bill, they have to renew the programs that are keeping people afloat in terms of evictions, in terms of some unemployment assistance through the Christmas season. It's not a lot. It's really, really beginning to ebb out almost completely at this point. But there is definitely a real need for it. So, yeah. So data released on Wednesday showed a 1.1% drop in retail sales in November. A disappointing start to crucial holiday season. So again, it's really not the it's not going to be the holiday season that you thought it was going to be when there's like mile-long bread lines in almost every major city in this country. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's only one group of people whose fault is for that, and it is the people in charge, folks. Yeah, so as we look into Joe Biden, and we anticipate his presidency, here's a look at some of the economic conditions he at least he's going to face here. Again, from the New York Times. This is what he's going to face. Who knows what the hell he's going to do about him? Probably not that much in the way of anything good, but we will have to take a look here and see. So, wages. So that wages and salaries have bounced back quickly is a sign that things are on track for a rapid recovery. During the last recession, which Biden and then President Barack Obama inherited in 2009, drops of wages and salaries took years to recover. The current crisis has been particularly negative and really had a persistent impact on unemployment for black men, who face an unemployment rate of 11.3%, 5 percentage points higher than the employment rate for white men at this moment. The number of Americans who are still in the labor force but have been unemployed for more than 6 months is increasing since April. So there's, again, they really try and drop out of the system, which is a really disturbing part that's really long-term and hard to recover fully. A sociologist with a left-leaning think tank said the rise in long-term unemployment, coupled with the fact that millions of workers haven't left the labor market altogether since February, indicated a very serious problem in connecting people who are able to produce needed goods and services with the opportunity to do so, because that serious problem clearly there being COVID. In terms of housing costs, home prices and rents have risen during the pandemic, but while the rising costs have strained the low-income renters, of course, the rise in housing prices typically signals strong economic growth. I think it is a little bit of a different, I guess it's rise in housing prices is kind of a leading indicator for the economy, but we will see. It's not like it's still, what I really think it's going to do is just create more of that stratification and really the deepening of that stratification that we will come to know and see. So, through the pandemic, really, we have seen completely altered lives. It really has not halted people's spending habits as much as some feared it would. Consumption has shifted towards goods over services, buying alcohol from stores instead of from bars, for example, bucking a generational trend toward a service economy, which I think, again, it is in large part due to the fact that this is a pandemic. That's not like people's permanent habits. And finally, and of course sadly, more families across the country are unable to meet their basic needs for food and housing security, according to a Census Bureau survey. And again, it's just such a scary time because those numbers are growing, and it really seems like so much of the other parts of the economy are being completely isolated from it. It's such a stratified economy. So many people's suffering is being there's such defined groups of people, the haves and the have-nots at this point. And the pandemic just has not helped that at all. We will be back next with more about the stimulus negotiations in specific. Check out this week's episode of Uprising about how Lyndon B. Johnson won his first Senate election. So here on Newsflash, we are following these stimulus negotiations for